All right, so now we have the second half of scene 7. You've already spent some time with these lines, and you should have a bit of an understanding of them. The main things that we are looking for in this is, first of all, how does Lady Macbeth convince him? What are her persuasion techniques? And the second thing we need to determine from this scene is, what is the plan? So Lady Macbeth enters, and I'm just going to let you listen through this scene since we've already read through it, and then we'll pause to discuss.
And now? What news?
He has almost supped. Why have you left the chamber?
Hath he asked me?
No, you not. He has.
We will proceed no further in this business.
What?
He hath honoured me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon.
Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since? And wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteem'st the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat of the adage?
Prithee, peace. I dare do all that may become a man who dares do more is none.
What beast was then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out had I so sworn as you have done to this.
If we should fail...
We fail? But screw your courage to the sticking place and we'll not fail. When Duncan is asleep, whereto the rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him, his 2 chamberlains will I with wine and wassail so convince that memory, the warder of the brain, shall be a fume, and the receipt of reason a limbeck only. When in swinish sleep their drenched natures lies as in a death, what cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers who shall bear the guilt of our great quell?
Bring forth men, children only, for thy undaunted metal should compose nothing but males. Will it not be received when we have marked with blood those sleepy 2 of his own chamber and used their very daggers, that they have done it?
Who dares receive it other? As we shall make our griefs and clamour roar upon his death.
I am settled, and bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat. Away, and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know.
All right. So let's go back and look at her persuasive techniques. First, as soon as she enters, Macbeth tells her that he is not going to do it. We will proceed no further in this business. She launches right away into, was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? And you have these phrases, to look now so green and pale. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valor as thou art in desire? Are you scared to do the things you want to do? Are you willing to live a coward in thine own esteem? So the first way that she goes about convincing him is she calls him a coward. Then Macbeth says, I do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none. And she says, what beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you said you were going to do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, talking about once you become king, you'll be so much more the man. So then she challenges his manhood, his masculinity. Are you a man? And then she challenges his promise. She calls him out on his promise to her. She says that she has nursed a child and she knows how tender it is to love that baby. And then she says, but if I had promised you that I would kill a child, I would have plucked his nipple from, or his boneless gums from my nipple and dashed his brains out. This is a horrible, violent image that she jumps to. But it brings back this again, this calls back to her unsex me here, where she's basically denying her own female instincts again by saying she would have taken a baby from her own breast and killed it, basically trying to show that her calling the darkness has worked and her remorse is gone. Before we move on to the plan, I want to look at this line where she says, like the poor cat in the adage. And I want to look at that allusion. It says it refers to a cat who wants to eat a fish, but is afraid to get his feet wet. And this proverb is a very good image of Macbeth here. She's saying, you're like a cat who's hungry, who's starving for a fish, but is just going to sit on the side of the creek and watch a fish swim around right in front of him because he's too scared to get his feet wet. And so it adds to her calling him a coward. All right, so once she's gone through all this, she's started to convince him a little bit. And now instead of saying we're not going to do it, he says, but what if we fail? And she says, screw your courage to the sticking place and we'll not fail. Again, saying what you need is courage, quit being a coward. And this is when she brings on the plan. The plan is to get his chamberlains drunk, get Duncan, and that's who his two chamberlains are, get Duncan's guards drunk. Then, as you find out down here, they're going to use the daggers of those guards. They're going to stab Duncan with the guards' daggers and leave them on the guards. So they're going to stab Duncan in his sleep and blame it on Duncan's own guards. Macbeth's response to this plan that Lady Macbeth came up with, that's important to note, is bring forth men, children only. He too is identifying that her unsex me speech has worked. And he is now settled and bent up to this terrible feat. He still calls it terrible, but the plan is solid. And then they end again with this theme of false face must hide what the false heart doth know. So this is the theme of appearances again. They plan to put on a falsely loyal face to hide their false disloyal hearts. This is a play on words because false, of course, means untrue. And so they have to put on a false face, but it's hiding their false heart because false also means in the sense of lying or deceitful. So their face has to be deceitfully innocent because their heart is deceitfully violent. Now you need to go to Kittim and consider, what do you think is going to happen in Act 2? How is this going to go down? They have a plan. They have agreed they're going to do it. Do you think they will succeed? Who will do the actual stabbing? Will everything go right? Will they get caught? How do you think this will go down?